Well, Morty and Orville are asleep. They're not very exciting in the day. And I guess I'm talkative. So as things come across my mind, I'll go ahead and make these diary entries. Anyway, these are my little light up Timu rabbit Easter troll things. You probably can't tell in this lighting, but they actually are lit up. Anyhow, I am addicted to Timu, and I fully admit it. I do control it so that I'm not irresponsible, but yeah, I admit it. I have an addiction. Anyhow, um, like I said, they're sleeping, and I was sitting and actually thinking about them. I cleaned up, for like the 12th time today, and I I was thinking about the day that I got them. Um, when when Albert died, I was pretty sure that I died. But when B died, and is probably why I haven't made the video yet, is I broke in half. I literally just broke in two and never dealt with it. Literally to the extent that I don't think I slept for 2 years. I had terrible nightmares. And I know some people might think that's ridiculous, and that's okay. I understand. But you'll you'll understand why when I get myself together to make that video. But when she died, I walked out of the vet's office and I left everything. Um, that vet she was incredible. I'll tell you a little bit about her too. But I was so upset. I left the carrier. I left everything that she had up there. I left owing the vet $1,000, and I I just disappeared. Like a week later, I called the vet and paid, and it was a few months later that I actually could go get her stuff. And I was sitting up there and I was waiting, and um this woman walked in, and she had this little torty colored rabbit. It was little lion head. And I have to admit he was just the cutest thing I think I'd seen. And I started talking to her. And word of mouth, she had gotten him from a breeder, a local breeder, and she was telling me about how they had a whole lot of black rabbits and they couldn't get rid of them, and there was one female and a breeder was coming to get her. And so long story short, I got B's stuff together and I got a hold of the breeder, which normally I absolutely I would not go to a breeder. But turns out what she told me was true. And she had one female. And I told her, I said, well, what if I'd like that female? And I didn't say anything, all right, because I didn't want her to know that I didn't agree with what she was doing. I just, didn't want her to go to a breeder. And so the end of the story pretty much comes down to, and yeah, she actually did this. She named her price and said, if I can beat him there. So I hightailed it over there and paid like triple what this guy was going to pay. And when I'm standing there, I look to the side, and first of all, the entire setup was nothing but every single rabbit she had except one was in a wire box. I mean, you can call it a cage, but it was a wire box, sides, top, bottom, all of it. And all of these rabbits, like, they couldn't even hardly move. Like watching a documentary about chicken farms or something. And I look to the side, and there's one rabbit sitting in a box. He's much bigger than the others, and he's facing the corner. And he didn't flinch for anything. He just, like, he's brain dead. And I asked her, why is that one in the box? And she said, well, um, he's old enough to breed, and we don't want to invest anything in him. And so we can't get rid of him because nobody wants the black rabbits. And I said, okay. Well, I said, what do you want for him? And she said, oh, you can just have him if you'll take him. Which, I just had so many scenarios in my head of where that rabbit was going to end up. So I said, well, would you mind if I take him? And she looked at me like, you want to? And I said, oh, yeah, it's not a problem. It's better that they, have a buddy or something anyway. And I said, I don't want you to get the wrong idea, because by this time I knew he was a male. I said, I'm going to have him fixed. I'm not going to breed him. I'm not going to do. And so that was Orville. So I got Orville for free and got Morty out of there. I'm not kidding, under the wire. As I was driving away, I saw the guy pull into her driveway. I don't know what she told him. I don't care. I just know that Morty would probably already be dead by now. And so turns out the reason they couldn't get rid of the black rabbits was because everybody wanted those torty colored rabbits. So that's like a calico for a cat, I guess. But in a rabbit's coat. So anyhow, yeah, so the black rabbits were literally just throwaways. So I got him back to the house, and Morty was insane. Albert, that was totally different when you couldn't get within 30 feet of him, because he was used to kids picking him up and dropping him and chasing him around. Morty was literally out of her mind. She'd never had space to even turn around. The only thing she knew of people was people just grabbing at her, sticking her in and out of that wire thing. And she was, I don't want to say she was mean. She was defensive. She would attack. I literally had to wait until they fixed her, so when they knocked her out to do the surgery, they groomed her. So that's how long I had to wait, because you couldn't get near her. She's so much better now. She's like an entirely different rabbit. And Orville, it was so sad. It was cute. I have to admit, it was a little bit cute, but it was so sad. He was terrified of everything. When he first came out of the carrier and he saw that I was there, he noticed that somebody was there. He turned around, he dove back into the carrier under the blankets, and you could see one eye looking out from under the blanket, terrified that somebody might see him there. And so I just completely gave both of them their space, and they ran and jumped and like they'd never been able to, because they hadn't. And both of them had this terrible diarrhea type poo. And, usually it's hard to switch up rabbits' food. The food that they had them on was so bad, and I think they raised them on pellets too, that when I put the first dish of like fresh vegetables and good pellets and good hay, they refused to eat the other stuff, because I put it there to make a slow transition. They would have nothing to do with it. So they were starving for nutrients too. But they're totally different rabbits now. But even all this time later, it's like they're still learning to trust me. So Morty will let me scratch her head. Orville, he'll let me for a second, and then he binkies away, because I think he likes the fact that he can say no. So I let him do it, because I think it's really important that they have bodily autonomy. Is that what it would be called? That they have the right to say, don't touch me, don't grab me. And so they're basically just treated like part of the family. I have I do have fences, but those are usually for safety. So if I leave and they don't go with me, I make sure that they're in a safe area. And my living room has no curb appeal whatsoever because I lined the walls with chicken wire so that I don't have to worry about that. I'd much rather that they're free than my living room is pretty, which is why I have, all of these different rugs you'll see in the videos that I swap out because they've eaten them and torn them up, and I've got to, constantly wash them like everybody else. But I thought it was a fun fact is I found out that Morty was born on the day that Bee died. And I thought, because I'm weird that way, I thought, what a sign. Yeah. So that's I guess kind of a little bit of a sad story, but I think it's kind of a good story too. So anyhow, yeah, thank you for listening. And I think I'm going to make that video about Bee pretty soon. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a good day.